Right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today we're going to start with a new topic, which is index number. First, what we need to understand is what is index number. Index number is a measure of percentage change in the value of variable over time period. So it based on time period, right? Period of time. So in general, index number can be obtained by dividing the value of variable in the current period, right, and base period by multiplying with 100%. So index number usually presented in percentage, right? So this is the symbol for index number, which is I for current period. So the value of the current period divided by the value of base period. Base period means the year that we want to compare. So, or the time that we want to compare. For example, let's say we want to compare a price for petrol, right? Petrol price. So we want to know index number of the petrol price for year 2020 compared to year 2019. For example, let's say for current price is 1 ringgit 25 cent for around 95. For this is for current period. This is a year price for year 2020, and we want to compare the price for year 2019. Let's say 2019 is 1 ringgit 85 cent, for example. So we need to multiply with 100%. So this is how we calculate index number for price, petrol price, year 2020. Right? So index number, if you can read this one, index number is the value of the variable in the current period expressed as a percentage of the value of the variable in the base period. So index number is measured by is a measure that express the current price, quantity or productivity level in the term of level at some fixed or point of time, right? So example of index number, we have business and economic index number in Malaysia, such as gold index, composite index, industry index, and so on. So there are a lot of index number in use in daily business and economic measure in Malaysia. So the government use index number to determine the wage increase, the price increase, the tax increase or decrease in the general economic policies, such as inflation rate lah. So let's look at the general the terminologies. So in index number, we need to understand there are three terms that usually used in index number for this topic. So the first one is base period. So base period is the period where the comparison is made, right? So index number for this for base period is always 100%. So this is the most important info that you need to understand. Base period always 100%. So the base period usually in year, but sometime in week or month. So also can be used as base period. So the current period is the period where the calculation is made, right? So for as you can see from my example just now, so I compare the petrol price for year 2020 with year 2019. So this is the petrol price. This is the price for year 2019. This is the price for year 2020, right? So another term that we need to understand is a weight. The weight is the value used to show the importance of the community. So the higher the value of weight, the more important of the community, right? So usually weight in this topic, this chapter, we will base on either base year or current year. So there are type of index number. So in this topic, we will only focus on two type of index number. First is price index, another one is quantity index, right? So of course there are a lot of index number out there, but in this chapter, our syllabus, we only focus on two index number, price index number and quantity index number. So the price index number is the percentage change in the price of the commodity in the current period as compared to the base period, right? So the price index is the price for current period divided by price in base period multiplied with 100%, right? So same goes to quantity index. So quantity index is a percentage change in the quantity in current period compared to base period, right? Quantity in current period divided by quantity in base period multiplied with 100%. So this is a quantity index. So usually price index, let's say IP for 2020. So price for 2020 PT. This is a current price for current year divided by P naught. P naught is represent price for base year, right? And then one multiply with 100%. Same goes to quantity index. Quantity index QT represent quantity in current period divided by Q naught, which is quantity for base period, right? So value index is a percentage change in both price and quantity of the commodity in the current period compared to base period. This is the same concept as quantity and price index, but we just combine these two quantity and price index together, right? So the concept is still same. Nominator is the current period, denominator is the base period, right? So this index number is known as simple index number. So it's simple index number only compare one commodity at a time. So if you want to compare the petrol price, so petrol price, one petrol price at a time, right? So now we move to the next topic, which is method to calculate index number. So there are two major methods to calculate index number. First is relative index number. Another one is aggregative index number. So relative index number means we are calculating one commodity at a time. So for aggregate index number, we are try to sum all the commodity at a time, right? So far, do you have any question? Can you understand the concept of index number, right?
Yes.
Right, good. So if you can understand, please comment in the chat room. Any questions so far? Ada question tak? Ada soalan? Please comment. Right. So now let's look at the relative method and aggregative method. So relative method is a simple or unweighted relative method. Another one is weighted relative method. So we have two type of relative method, which is the first one is simple relative method. Another one is a weighted relative method. Same goes to aggregative method. So we have simple aggregate method. Another one is weighted aggregate method, right? So unweighted index number is the index number consider all given commodity at are equal importance, right? So means if you are not inputting some weight value in the formula, so we are consider all commodity have equal importance, right? So if we put some weight in the formula, so means that we are consider in the importance of the commodity, right? So now, so look at simple relative index number. So simple relative index number are used to measure percentage change in price, quantity, and so on for only one community over period of time. So we only measure one community over period of time. One community, one community, one community. Right? We cannot measure all community at a time. So this is what we call as a simple relative index number. No, so now for one community, right? So let's say we have a simple relative price index. So the formula is PT divided by P naught multiplied with 100%, right? So this is a simple price index number, relative index number. For simple quantity relative index number, so QT divided by Q naught multiplied with 100%. So this is the QT is the quantity for current period. Q naught is quantity in base period. PT is the price of the current period. P naught is a price for base period. So this is a simple relative index number. So we just need to understand, the term simple relative, right? When we have a simple relative, so means that we only have a simple index number, right? So P naught, quantity price index, quantity current year divided by quantity base year, or price current year divided by price base year, right? So if you want to measure for n community, if you want to do a simple average relative price index, right? Simple average relative price index or simple average quantity price index. So what we need to do is we need to find the average of the price index or quantity index. So we need to find, let's say we have three community. This is community number 1, community number 2, community number 3. So we calculate the price index for community number 1, PT divided by P naught. So this is price for index number for community number 1. PT divided by P naught multiplied with 100%. This is a price index for community number 2. This is PT divided by P naught multiplied with 100%. This is a price index number for community number 3. So if you want to find simple average relative, so we just need to add this index number together, divide by 3. So divide by n. N is equal to 3. 1, 2, 3. Right. So this is how we calculate simple average index number. So we can change the value of price of the symbol of price of symbol of quantity depend on what index number you want to find. Right. So now look at weighted relative index number. So now we are moving to weighted relative. Just now we just focus on simple relative, right? So weighted relative index number. So if you want to find weighted relative price index, right? Weighted relative price index. So the summation of PT divided by P naught means that the summation of all index number, so this is became summation of PT divided by P naught. So this is equal to PT divided by P naught. So multiply with some weight, right? Divide by the total weight. So this is what we call as weighted relative price index. So for quantity index, weighted relative quantity index, we just change the price to quantity, right? So the first one, numerator S is a current year and denominator is a base year, right? So let's say if we are saying that weight is equal to base year, right? So normally weight is the value of price and quantity together, right? So if you want to find weighted base period relative price index, right? So the summation of PT divided by P naught. So this is a big summation. And I just want to emphasize the big summation PT divided by P naught is not equal to you sum of PT plus PT plus PT. Dia bukan bentuk macam ni dia kita tak boleh sum of PT divided by sum of weight. So it's not equal to this formula, right? So maksudnya you tak boleh buat it's also not equal to P1 plus P2 plus P3 divided by P01 plus P02 plus P03. So dia tak sama, right? So this one is equal to P1 divided by P01 plus P2 divided by P02 plus P3 divided by P03, right? So this one means price for commodity number 1 current year divided by price for base year commodity number 1. So setiap satu index number you plus, right? Bukan plus price semua for current year plus, tambah semua divided by tambah semua base year, right? So if you want to find weight base period relative price index, so let's say weight is a base period, so base period is a weighted, so you multiply with, you just change W equal to base period lah. So just the same formula, right? So for current period, weighted current period relative price index, so we just changed weight into equal to current period lah. So weight is the value of price and quantity, right? So it's just same formula, we just use the same formula. Weighted relative price index number, let's say summation of PT divided by P naught, so this is a big summation, divided by summation of W multiplied with W, right? Okay, so far I just inform you the formula and how to calculate the index number. So later on we will look at how to solve the problem using some example, right? So far, do you have any question? Ada soalan tak? Question? Right. So now we move to the next topic, which is a simple aggregate index number or composite index number, right? So we will learn simple aggregate index number and weighted aggregate index number. So there are two same as relative index number. First we will learn simple, and another one is weighted. So the simple aggregate index number, aggregate means we try to aggregate all the values, right? We want to sum all the values, all the commodity together, right? So simple aggregate index number measure the percentage change in price or the percentage change in quantity of a group commodity over a period of time. So we measure of a group of commodity, right? So if you look at the first formula, simple aggregate price index. So this is the summation of all price in current year divided by the summation of all price in base year. So let's say I have 3 commodity, let's say for example. So this is commodity number 1, commodity number 2, and commodity number 3, right? So let's say this is price for year 2020. This is a price for year 2019. So let's say price for year 2019 is 1.25. This is 1.85. This is 3.50. This is let's say 3.00. And let's say this one is 4.00. This is 3.50. Right. So to find the simple aggregate price index for these three commodity, we need to plus 1.25 plus 3.50 plus 4.00 divided by the base year is 2019, 1.85 plus 3.0 plus 3.50 multiply with 100%. So this is how the formula works, right? So if you can notice, this formula is not equal to this formula, right? So it's a totally different formula. So because this formula require you to calculate the index number for each community, and then you plus all the index number for that community, three community, right? So now for quantity index, we just change the value from price to quantity, right? So this is what we call as a simple aggregate index number, right? So now we look at weighted aggregate index number. So the weighted aggregate index number, right? So the general formula is we need to multiply the sum of P multiplied with weight divided by the sum of P naught multiplied with weight, right? So this is the weighted aggregate price index. So if weight is the base year, so we need to replace W equal to base year. Either if P weight should be Q for base year. So kalau quantity, weight should be price for base year, right? So now look at this one. This is what we call as a last Paris index number. This is a last Paris index number. Last Paris index number measure a weight when the weight is measured in base period, so then we call as last Paris index. When weight are measured in base period, then it is called as last Paris index number. So if you want to find weighted aggregate price index and the weight are measured in base period, I repeat again and again, it is called as last Paris index number, right? So, or we can say that weighted base period aggregate price index, weighted base period aggregate quantity index, right? So these two formula is called as last Paris index number, right? So last Paris index number, we change W equal to base period, either P naught or W equal to Q naught, depend on what index number you want to find. If you want to find the price index, weighted base period aggregate price index, and then the weight should be quantity, right? Base period, quantity in base period. So that's why summation of PT multiply with Q naught, right? Divide by summation of P naught multiply with Q naught, right? So this is last Paris. Same goes to quantity index. If we want to find last Paris quantity index or weighted base period aggregate quantity index, right? Since we want to find quantity index, the weight should be price, right? And last Paris is base period. The weight are measured in base period, so the price should be base period, right? So summation of QT multiply with P naught, right? So this is for quantity. This is for base. Summation of Q naught multiplied with P naught. So this is what we call as last period's quantity index, right? And the weight are measured in base period. So if the weight are measured in current period, right? So we have Pasch index number. Pasch index number. So Pasch index number, weighted current period, aggregate, price index, or weighted current period, aggregate, quantity index, right? So weight are measured in base period, current period for Pasch index. So either PT or W equal to QT, right? Because Pasch index weight are measured in current period, right? So same formula, summation of PT multiplied with W. W here is equal to QT, right? Because when we are measuring price index, the weight should be quantity. When we are measuring quantity index, the weight should be price. So dia akan macam tu, right? So far, do you have any question? Any question? Do you understand the formula? So I'm giving you a lot of formula, right? So later on, we will look at how to solve the problem. You can comment on chat box. Any question? Do you understand? Please comment. All right. Okay, good. So for advantage and disadvantage of Las and Pasch index number, so I will give this note to you later. So I want you to read and understand what is the advantage of Las and what is the disadvantage of Las. Same goes to Pasch index, right? So factor to be considered when constructing index number. First factor is number of item, right? So index number can be either take a chosen group of item or only one item, right? So we need to make sure number of item are identified before we construct index number. And then the thing that we need to focus is the choice of base period, right? The base period chosen cannot be too far from the current period, right? So the base period must be stable and a normal period when there are no war, famine, earthquake, or flood, or etc. So the period of economic downturn cannot be chosen as the base period, right? So this is the important thing that you need to understand. And determination of weight are used in index number to see the importance of an item. So the higher the weight, the more important the item, right? So this is the thing that you need to understand, right? So change in base period, nanti kita tengok at this one, right? So now look at example number 54. So in this example, we will apply all the formula that we already learned. So far, we already look at relative index number and aggregate index number. So in aggregate relative index number, we look at simple relative index number. Another one is weighted relative index number. Same goes to aggregate. We already look at simple aggregate index number and weighted aggregate index number. So we will apply these two knowledge to solve the example in example number 54. So the following data shows the price of selected items, quantity purchased by Amina in February 2002 and November 2003. So we have 2 year, February 2002 and November 2003. So this is the price and quantity in kilos, right, for base period, price and quantity in kilos for current year. So dia kata dekat sini based on 2002, February 2002. So means that February 2002 is base year. This is current year, right? So we have three commodity, which is the first one is ikan bilis, Siamese rice and flour. So first question is we want to calculate simple relative price index for each item in November 2003. So index number for ikan bilis, right? This is the price index, right? We want to calculate the price index. So let's see, I emphasize this one. We want to calculate simple relative price index for each item, right? So price index, this is price index for ikan bilis in year 2003, right? So price for 2003 is 8.50 divided by price in 2002. This is the base year, 8.00 multiplied with 100%. So this one should be equal to 106.25%. So now, before I forgot, how to interpret the price, right? How to explain the price index. So if we have the price index is equal to 100%, if the price index is equal to 100%, means there are no change between the current year and the base year. If the price index more than 100%, which is 106 as we got this one, means that the price is increased by 6.25% in 2003 compared to 2002. If the price is less than 100%, means that the price is decreased from in 2003 compared to 2002, right? So this is the first one, and then we need to calculate for price for index number, price index number for Siamese rice in 2003. So this one should be 3.003 ringgit divided by 2.8 multiply with 100%. So this one should be equal to 107.14%, right? And the third one is price index for flour 2003. So price for 2003 is 1.60 divided by 1.30 multiply with 100%. So this one should be equal to 123.08%. So this is how we calculate simple relative price index for each item. Right? So far, any question? Do you understand? Can you give me some feedback? Alright, good. So now we look at average relative price index. So average relative price index. So we are still in relative index number. So average relative price index. So what is the formula for average relative? So let's look at the formula. This is a relative. So if you want to find average relative or simple average relative, right? So this is the formula. Summation of all the index number divided by how many community multiply with 100%. Right? So the formula is for B, simple relative price index is equal to summation of PT divided by P naught divided by N multiply with 100%. Right? So price index for this one 8.50 divided by 8.00 plus 3.00 divided by 2.80 plus 1.60 divided by 1.30 divided by how many community we have? We have 3 community multiply with 100%. So this is how we calculate simple relative price index. Right, so this one should be equal to 112.16%. So how to explain the meaning of 112? So the average price of 3 items has increased by 12.16% in November 2003 compared to February 2002. So this is how we explain the meaning of simple relative price index. Right? So we need to we move to the next question, which is C. Right? We want to find the aggregate quantity index for 2003 and explain the meaning. Right? So let me clear this one. Nampak serabut. So for C, this is C, right? Okay, for C. So C, we want to find the aggregate quantity index for November 2003, right? Aggregate quantity index. So the formula for aggregate quantity index is summation of quantity in current period divided by summation of quantity in base period multiply with 100%. So this is the formula for aggregate quantity index. So now summation of quantity index quantity in base current period, which is 10, 30 and 20. So 10 plus 30 plus 20, right? And the summation of quantity in base period is 8 plus 20 plus 10 multiply with 100%, right? So this one should be equal to 157.89%. So again, if you look at this one, the index number is more than 100%, means that the quantity has increased, right? So the quantity, so we can say the average quantity for 3 items has increased by 57.89% in November 2003 compared to February 2002, right? So this is how we interpret the value of index number. It should be very easy, right? Now we move to the next question. The next question is we want to find the weighted current year aggregate quantity index, right? So if you still remember, just now I already told you, right? Weighted current year is PASH index, right? So this is the weighted current year. So this is quantity index. Right. Dia kata kat sini, weighted current year aggregate quantity index. So aggregate. Right. Weighted current year aggregate quantity index is also equal to PASH, CHE, PASH quantity index. Right. For PASH quantity index, the formula should be summation of quantity index in current year multiply with, kalau PASH means current year, multiply with price in current year, divide by summation of quantity in base period multiply with price in current year, multiply with 100%. So this one should be, so if you look at this one, the table, it should be, let's say we focus on the first one, nominator, the summation of QT multiply with PT. Right, so this one is QT is 10. So 10 multiply with PT is 8.50 plus 30 and 3. 30 multiply with 3.0 plus 20 and 1.6. 20 plus multiply with 1.60. So this one should be equal to, you need to calculate this one. And then let's focus for the second part, which is denominator, summation of Q naught multiply with PT. So this one divide by Q naught. Where is a Q naught? Q naught here, right? So this is a Q naught. So 8 multiply with price for current year, which is 8.50 plus 20 multiply with 3.0, 20 multiply with 3.0 plus 10 multiply with 1.6, 10 multiply with 1.6, right? So I just padam this one, right? Sekejap. Right? Multiply with 100%. So this is the formula for weighted current year aggregate quantity index. So this one should lead us to 143.75%, right? So the meaning is, since the value of index number is more than 100%, so the average quantity for 3 items has increased by 43.75% in November 2003 compared to February 2002. So that's how we calculate aggregate weighted current year aggregate quantity index. Right. Now look at the last question, which is we want to find the last pair's price index for November 2002, November 2003 actually, right? And explain the meaning, right? So the last question is E. Let me use another color, right? So we want to find last pair's price index. Last pair's means weighted base year aggregate price index. So this is what the last pair's, right? So the formula for last pair's is summation of PT multiplied with Q naught. So you need to understand last period utilize the weight is a base year, right? Divide by summation of P naught multiplied with Q naught multiplied with 100%, right? So now let's look at this one. Let's try to solve this the first part. Summation of PT multiplied with Q naught, right? PT is this one, Q naught is this one, right? So 8.50 multiplied with 8. Let me use another color. Biru lah. 8.50 multiplied with 8 plus the second one 3.00 multiplied with 20 plus the last one 1.60 multiplied with 10 and divide by summation of P naught multiplied with Q naught. So this one divide. Let me clear this one. So this one dia dekat sini, right? This is a Q naught, this is a Q naught, this is a P naught. So 8.00 multiplied with 8. So this is the first part. Second part is 2.80 multiplied with 20 plus the third part is 1.3 multiplied with 10. Right? And then we need to multiply with 100% lah. Right? Right. So this one should be equal to how much? This one should be equal to 108.27%. So how to explain the meaning? Since the value of index number is more than 100%, so the price of 3 item increased by 8.27%. So the average price of the item has increased by 8.27% in November 2003 as compared to February 2002. Right. That's how we solve the problem. So far we already look at all the formula in index number, which is relative, simple relative, weighted relative, simple aggregate and weighted aggregate. Right. So far, do you have any question? Do you understand, or you have any question? Can write it into chat room, please. Please put in chat room if you have any question or no question. So I assume that you already understand index number. So by then we already finished index number. Chapter number 5, which is index number. We finished chapter number 5. So now I leave example number 55 for you and 57, right? So I also leave it to you the tutorial. We have 5-6 question tutorial, right? So please consider this as your homework. Please do all the question. I will give this note in Google Classroom, right? And later on, please download and please do a revision, because after this we will have assessment number 2. On assessment number 2, we will focus on 3 topic, which is correlation and simple linear regression, index number, and the next topic for next week, which is time series, right? After we finish chapter number 6, which is time series, we should have assessment number 2, right? Assessment number 2 also equal to task number 2, right? So please be ready for assessment number 2. Make sure you understand chapter number 5. So if you can notice, I give you one example, right? And this example is very easy example, right? And then I leave it for you, example number 55, 57, and the tutorial. This is going to be hard example, right? So I want you to try to solve it by yourself. If you have a question later, maybe next week we will discuss on this question, right? So far, before we end our session, do you have any question, last question, or any others question? You can write in the chat room, or you can speak up. Any last question?
No, sir.
Right, good. So then we end our session. By then we already conclude chapter number 5, which is index number, right? So I think that's all. Thank you very much, and Assalamualaikum.